Today, we're tackling a topic that I feel is long overdue: the low bar of marketing within the construction industry. Now, let me explain. Why is the standard so poor? Why do so many marketing teams feel stuck following outdated, ineffective strategies? And more importantly, what can we do to change it? Now, I'm not saying that everybody is focused on that low bar of marketing, but across the board, there are facts, there are figures that prove marketing isn't fantastic and it hasn't got a great reputation within this industry. So, in this episode, we're going to explore why marketing in construction often feels like it's stuck in the past, discuss the key excuses businesses use to justify underperformance, and more importantly, outline four foundational marketing principles that can elevate your organization and your marketing. This is a topic I feel very strongly about, and I hope by the end of the episode, you'll not only have a fresh perspective on marketing, but also some practical takeaways to improve your strategy. Whether you're part of a small team, one person department, or are leading a full scale marketing operation, I hope this has got something for everybody. So let's get into it. So, first of all, I would just want to take a moment to look at the marketing challenge in construction right now. And I want to rewind the clock about a year. And around this time last year, I was fortunate enough to be invited to present at the Builders Merchants Federation BMF Marketing Forum at JCB headquarters in Uttoxeter. Believe me, if you get a chance to go to their headquarters, do it. It is phenomenal. Now, although the JCB headquarters blew me away a little bit, the BMF has been on an impressive journey over the past decade, completely transforming its approach and positioning itself as a modern, forward thinking trade association. Their move from an old, expensive building in London to a sleek, modern office in the Midlands is symbolic of their wider transformation, one focused on market orientation, putting the merchant first, and driving an industry forward. They understand that when one part of the industry improves, everyone benefits. A rising tide lifts all boats, as the saying goes. From a marketing perspective, this is one of the few real success stories in the construction sector, long term success stories. And that's precisely the issue. Why are there so few? Why is the standard of marketing in construction so low? Can you think of a long standing organization that pins everything it does on marketing as a central function, that important asset within a business, that profit maker within the construction industry? You're kind of hard pressed off the top of your head. Too often, companies seem to engage in marketing not because they are genuinely believing it will drive business success, but simply because everyone else is doing it. But if everyone else is doing the bare minimum and we follow suit, we're just reinforcing the same low standards across the industry. This creates an opportunity, though, a huge one, for marketers who are willing to think differently, take marketing seriously, and truly elevate their game. Which brings me back to my presentation at the BMF Forum. I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to share some of the key insights from my talk, because a year later, the conversation is just as relevant, if not more. I hope this episode gives you value, makes you question some of your current marketing practices, and ultimately encourage you to think differently about how getting your marketing right can lead to real business growth, whether that means increased inquiries, greater brand awareness, higher market share, stronger sales, or ultimately better profitability. But here's the odd thing: while I'm advocating for change, the fundamentals of marketing haven't actually changed at all. The core principles remain the same. Sure, media channels have evolved, consumer habits have shifted, but the way we build the foundations of a marketing strategy hasn't. That's why we'll break it down today. How everything has changed, yet nothing has changed at all. So let's have a reality check, shall we? How do we know this is the right conversation to be having? Stats don't lie, right? A staggering 3 out of 4 senior marketers in construction say that marketing within the industry is not of a high standard. But here's the kicker: only 11% believe their own organization's marketing is poor. Now, that's a contradiction if ever I've seen one. Clearly, there is a disconnect somewhere along the lines. Someone is telling some porkies. If you dig a little deeper, you'll uncover some uncomfortable truths. So I hope you're sitting down for these ones. The top reasons cited for underwhelming marketing performance in construction are these: 55% cite limited in house resources, but better planning can reduce this. 38% blame budget constraints. Work with what you've got and set expectations accordingly, and the budget blame goes away. 35% say they struggle to reach their target audience. Isn't that our job? And finally, 24% admit they don't stand out from the competition, which just highlights we need to be more creative in this industry. But these excuses don't add up, they're contradictory. In reality, these are just justifications for inaction, comforting reasons we tell ourselves so we can sleep at night, believing that the state of our marketing is just simply out of our control. Here's my take: it's bullshit. Yep, constraints exist. Of course, smaller budgets mean you struggle to compete in the pay to play channels like advertising. Yes, having a small team limits your capacity, but these are challenges, not insurmountable barriers out of your control. If marketing teams focused on setting clear, realistic goals and aligning expectations from the start, we wouldn't see so many of these excuses being thrown around. Asking marketers to achieve unrealistic results with insufficient resources is just simply unfair. But at the same time, there is always room for improvement, which brings us nicely onto the 4 foundational marketing principles that can help us avoid these excuses altogether. First and foremost, number 1, understanding the market and basic market orientation. One of the biggest failures I see in marketing, particularly in the construction industry, is the lack of true market orientation. Too many companies operate inside out rather than outside in. So, what do I mean by this? An inside out approach means businesses focus on what they want to sell rather than what the market actually needs. They build products, create services, and push messages without truly understanding their audience. In contrast, an outside in approach starts with the market, the customer, and their pain points and builds solutions to meet those needs. This is marketing 101. Yet, it's so often overlooked. Businesses assume they understand their customers because they've been in the industry for years. But when was the last time you validated those assumptions? When did you last conduct a real customer research, analysis, market trends, or test whether your messaging actually resonates with who you want to target? If you're not speaking to your customers regularly, whether that's through structured surveys, informal interviews, social media engagement, or analyzing behavioral data, you're making guesses, not strategic decisions. So let's take a step back and look at why market orientation is critical. A business exists to solve a problem. If your marketing isn't addressing that problem clearly and directly, you're already off track. And finally, listening to the market leads to better products and services. If the market is telling you it needs something different, as I've just stated, the answer isn't to force your current offering on them, it's to evolve. But how do we implement market orientation in a business? Number 1, we conduct regular customer research, whether it's formal surveys, in depth interviews, or even just speaking to your sales team about customers' feedback. Gather real insights. Number 2, map out customer pain points. List out the common problems your customers face and then evaluate how well your business is positioned to solve them. Number 3, review competitors strategically, not just to copy them, but to find gaps they aren't addressing. Number 4, test and validate messaging. Run A B testing on email campaigns, digital ads, or even website copy to see what resonates the most. And stay adaptable. If your marketing isn't working, don't double down. Adjust based on what the data and feedback is telling you. I'll come on to data and analysis later on because there's a few nuances in there that I want to highlight. But that statement still rings true. When you focus on market orientation, your marketing naturally becomes more effective, more impactful, and more profitable. Marketing orientation is all well and good, but what do we do with this information? How do we implement it? And this comes onto one of the biggest pitfalls in marketing, especially in the construction industry. And that's mistaking tactics for strategy. Too many marketers jump straight into execution mode without first defining where they're going. Strategic intent. And this is why I use a car journey analogy to explain strategic intent. Imagine you're planning a long distance road trip. Before you even think about which roads to take or where to stop for petrol or diesel or get electric, you need to answer three fundamental questions. Where are you now? Your starting point, current market position, brand perception, resources. Where are you trying to go? Your long term business goals, brand awareness, revenue growth, market expansion, and what vehicle you're using, your overarching marketing approach. Are you focusing on digital, partnerships, or direct sales? If you can't answer those questions clearly, you're essentially driving without a destination. You'll be burning fuel, wasting time, and going around in circles. Now, if you're going from A to B, you know your destination and your starting point, and that to get there, you'll be driving a car. And that's it. That's your strategy. Nothing more. It's clear, it's definitive, and no one can deny that they don't understand it. The fuel you use, the roads you take, the stops you make, the passengers, supplies, and so on are not needed here. These are tactical. They can muddy the waters of a clear and effective marketing strategy. Focus top level, focus on that shining light. Now, I want to be fundamentally clear on this, as it's one of the most common mistakes I see in construction. Like I've said, confusing strategy with tactics leads to muddying the waters. So, just for clarification, once and for all, strategy, big picture, and plan. It's the overarching direction that guides your marketing efforts. Tactics are the specific actions you take to achieve this strategy that you've set out. So let's just jump back to the car analogy to give you an example. Strategy: we need to drive from London to Edinburgh. Tactics: we'll take the M1 motorway, fuel at a service station halfway. If you know a decent service station, I'd choose that one of your choice. And we'll stop for lunch in Leeds. No, Harrogate. Betty's. Delicious. The problem in construction marketing is that many companies skip the strategy and go straight to tactics. They dive into social media campaigns, brochures, events, or PR efforts without a clear sense of how these fit into a larger strategy. But how do we define this clear strategic intent? Well, I'll give you 4 pointers. Number 1, clarifying your business goals and objectives. Your marketing strategy should align directly with your organization's long term objectives. Are you trying to grow the market, improve brand awareness, increase lead generation? Number 2, set realistic milestones. Instead of vague ambitions like we want to be market leader, set tangible, measurable goals. For example, we want to increase inbound leads by 30% over the next 12 months. No one can deny what you're trying to do. Number 3 is align stakeholders. Marketing doesn't operate in isolation. Involve senior leadership, sales teams, imagine, and product teams to ensure strategic buy-in. And number 4, document the strategy. A strategy that isn't written down is just an idea. Make it a concrete, referenceable statement of intent. With a clear strategic intent, your marketing efforts become far more focused, more efficient, and more likely to drive real business growth. So now we've got strategic intent out of the way. What about this tactical execution? So I'm going to bring something in here that's lasted the test of time, like good marketing foundational knowledge always does. The 4 Ps of marketing. And many marketers in construction focus almost exclusively on one of those, which is promotion, the communication aspect of marketing. But marketing is so much more than just advertising, PR, and social media. To execute marketing effectively, we need to revisit the 4 Ps framework. So, number one, product. Product development is a core part of marketing. The best marketing in the world can't fix a bad product. If your product doesn't align with market needs, your first job is to improve it, not just promote it. Remember, market orientation. Number two is price. Tricky one. Who's determining the price in your company? Sales? Finance? If marketing isn't involved in pricing decisions, you're missing a key element of a marketing plan. Now, I'm not saying marketing should be the gatekeepers here, far from it. But if you leave pricing to be set by other departments, you're going to get a skewed, blinkered pricing policy. It's sales' role to sell. In a B2B market, this usually means on a commission basis. So if sales are setting the pricing, you can see where I'm going with this one. Finance, it may well be financially the right move for the business, right margins, etc. But does it resonate with the target market? Will it appeal? Will it sell? Is it the right price point for your industry? Procurement, customer service, HR, IT, join in, roll the six, and you get to set the price. It's all rubbish. Pricing should be based on market demand. What are customers willing to pay? Competitive analysis. How does your pricing compare to alternatives? And value perception. Is your price aligned with the value you're offering? And what department knows better than marketing for market demand, competitive analysis, and value perception? Get marketing involved in pricing. Get a seat at that table. Plus, if you don't know the pricing and how it's structured, how are you supposed to promote the damn thing? Off my soapbox and onto place or distribution. How does your product or service reach the customer? Distribution is often an afterthought, right? Yet it plays a huge role in market success. Are you selling direct or through distribution? Do you have an e commerce platform? Or are there new channels you could explore? Not one department should be making the decisions here, as many of the factors that determine price will also be in play. Finally, number four, promotion. We can all breathe a sigh of relief. We're here. This is the part most marketers focus on. But it should be built on top of a solid strategy, not in isolation. Good marketer, bad marketer. Bad marketer spends most of the time on promotion. Good marketer, 25% on promotion tactically, 25%, 25%, 25% on the other three. I don't need to cover promotion communications in too much detail, as most that focus on this tactical P work in marketing. They are not a marketer. There's a distinct difference that produces very, very different outcomes. But for those that want to know what promotion is all about, it's the channels you choose to communicate your messages to your target audience. It's choosing the right channels with the right messages consistently over a long period of time that splits good marketers from the poor ones. By balancing all 4 Ps, you ensure your marketing is comprehensive, strategic, and effective. Our final fundamental, number four, number crunching. Like I said before, there was a subtle nuance about looking at data and going with what it's showing you. And I'll get to that in a little bit with another lovely analogy. First and foremost, marketing is as much about data analysis as it is about creativity. I'm not diminishing that or denying it, But too often, marketers take numbers at face value rather than digging deeper to understand what's really happening. So let's revisit the World War II plane analogy. Here's the second analogy. During the war, engineers collected data on bullet holes in returning planes and initially thought they should reinforce those areas. But the real insight came when they realized that the planes that didn't return were hit in different places, and those were the areas that truly needed protection. This same survivorship bias happens in marketing. Are your website clicks from actual prospects or just bots? Are your customers engaging with your ads or are they just accidental clicks? Are your email open rates high but conversion rates low? These things need to be analyzed in more detail. But how do we analyze data more effectively within marketing? Well, firstly, we look beyond vanity metrics. Likes and impressions mean nothing if they don't translate into real business impact. You need to segment the data. Don't just look at the overall numbers. Break them down by audience, channel, and behavior. Dig deep and test and refine. If something isn't working, tweak it and test again. Look at the numbers from different angles, different places. You'll be surprised with what appears. So, a strategic summary is needed here. And there's so much more I could include in this podcast episode, but I want to keep it top level and not get too much into the detail. But if you want to dig a little deeper, then here are my suggestions for what to search for. Firstly, think strategically before tactically. A great book here is Good Strategy, Bad Strategy by Richard Rummelt. His book includes real world examples that bring the topic of strategic intent to life. Secondly, look at STP, segmentation, targeting, and positioning. If you're not doing this, you're not really a marketer. Think of it like opening up a bag of sweets and picking the best ones out. And finally, toes. Now, not everyone is a fan of SWOT. It's too broad and doesn't really provide you with any real analysis to draw off. But including a toes can guide your strategy, and this will be based on a logical approach. So check those three things out. That's think strategically before tactically, STP, and toes. Finally, I'd like to cover what to do if you have a small marketing department, a team of one, or perhaps if you're really lucky in construction, a team of two. There are three practical tips here that will place you in a good position to focus your marketing efforts and gain results more effectively. Number one, setting targets. Ask your CEO what good looks like. What do they want to achieve in 6, 12, 18 months' time? And if you sit down after that time frame, what will the expectation be from a marketing perspective? I.e., what are the deliverables that they'd expect to achieve? This could be monetary, but it doesn't have to be. It could be based around building a presence, enhancing data, or developing assets, depending on where your organization is at and heading. This provides you two things. Number one, goals to achieve in that time frame. And number two, the right to say no. No to anything that doesn't help achieve the goals the CEO has set at the start. Everything else is purely noise and nice to have and not integral to the business goals and your marketing goals, the goals that you go to work to achieve. Number two, maximize your resource. Think about it like a chef. A chef doesn't use all the possible food they can get their hands on. They're selective. Some are experts in certain fields, say vegetarian or perhaps patisseries, whereas others are generalists, head chefs, choosing the right combination of ingredients that work together. And you need to do the same as a marketer. Don't try and use everything. Be selective, choose wisely, and make sure integration is clear, definitive, with added creativity. And finally, number three, use tech. This sounds obvious, but in marketing, there is so much tech that we often get blind to actually how many we're using ineffectively. My advice here, use a few and use them well. maximize their potential, and sprinkle a little AI on top of it to fill in the blanks. If you'd like to chat through what I use or what you could use to maximize your marketing efforts, drop me an email or find me on LinkedIn. Okay, so where are we now, and what do we need to do to heighten this bar of mediocre marketing in construction? What we see far too often are corners being cut. They're cut to get to the output, the creative part, which is hugely important, don't get me wrong, but without the due diligence of what comes before that, then it doesn't make much sense to anyone. It's not long term thinking, it's not integrated. Therefore, it's mainly sales driven. One piece of comms trying to do the workload of many. Final analogy for you, think about it like baking a cake. Your comms is the cherry on top, that delicious, tasty part. But you can't put that cherry on top of the cake without baking the cake first. And when this doesn't bear fruit, marketing is devalued. And with this devaluation comes less investment. And so the never ending downward spiral of where we are today begins over and over again. There is hope, however, with many, many good marketers out there. I won't name them to save their blushes. And if you want to know, get in touch with me and we can chat it through. But when I say marketers, I mean that in the true sense. There is a stark difference between being a marketer and working in marketing, like I previously said. And too many are working in marketing and are not marketers. Now, one more piece of advice before we wrap this whole thing up. It's simple, yet the most effective way to know what you're supposed to be doing as a marketer. Get some formal education within marketing from a reputable source, not for the qualification, not for the line on your CV, but so you know the fundamentals, the bedrocks of marketing that have never and will never change, most of which I've covered in some guise in this episode. Happy marketing.